So Google has acquired Fitbit, and Samsung's next flagship smartwatch will be using Wear OS. My friends, this only means that Google means serious business in the growing wearable market. This may be the pivotal moment in Wear OS's eventual comeback. Let's get into the reasons why. I've had the chance to thoroughly test and review many different smartwatches and fitness trackers over the years on my channel. I've come to the conclusion that Android users who are especially invested in Google's ecosystem should really consider Wear OS as their main smartwatch. Now there's a little caveat to that. If you're really big into fitness and that's your top priority, then I really recommend to go with Fitbit or Garmin, but you'll be missing out on some of the key features from Wear OS. So for other brands like Samsung's Tizen watchOS, I honestly had a really bad experience. I just felt like the whole experience didn't feel cohesive when you're coupled with an Android phone. Now, it has been rumored that the new Galaxy Watch 4 is going to be using the new Wear OS operating system and not using Tizen. I think this is wonderful news, but I'm very skeptical, especially after what happened with the OnePlus watch. I'm extremely disappointed that the new OnePlus watch, which had a lot of hype, is not going to be using Wear OS. I'm not a big fan of all these Chinese manufacturers trying to make their own operating system, because in the end, it's really us who suffer. Let me explain why. If you go with a second tier or third tier operating system, you don't get the many benefits of native integration with Google's ecosystem, or any ecosystem for that matter, even Alexa. And you also miss out on some really high quality third-party apps that are out there, so nothing really is backing it. I don't know why they're making these types of random operating systems. Anyways, after years of research, I think the best smartwatch experience, but not necessarily for fitness trackers, is indeed Google's native Wear OS. But there's a major caveat to that. At the time, I strongly believe that in order to get the full potential out of Wear OS, you need to use the Ticwatch Pro 3. The main reason why it's critical to use Ticwatch's innovative hardware and software is that there are a lot of gaps in Wear OS, and Ticwatch does a really good job at filling those gaps. We'll talk about that a lot more later in this video. Now, for a quick disclaimer, I bought my own Ticwatch Pro 3. This video is in no way sponsored by Mobvoi, which is the manufacturer of Ticwatch. Also, this whole video has nothing to do with iOS users. If you're an iOS user, obviously Apple's smartwatch is going to be the most refined smartwatch experience out there. So when I thought about making this video, I didn't want it to be another Ticwatch Pro 3 review. I've already done that on this channel and there's millions of reviews. I want to focus more on highlighting the positive aspects of Wear OS and Ticwatch Pro when they work together. So before we dive into the 11 reasons why the combination of Ticwatch Pro 3's hardware and Wear OS software provide a distinct advantage over the competition, let me mention the fundamental reasons why you want a smartwatch in the first place. So after using a smartwatch for quite some time, I've noticed that I use my phone less. And this is one of the main reasons why you may want to invest in a smartwatch, is to simply not use your phone. I find that every time I reach my phone to check the weather or check, for example, the time, I end up doing other things. I get caught into a myriad of other social media, news, because it's just so ambient. It's always there. You can just swipe right on Google, for example, and you get to see your news feed. So not having these distractions allows me to be more productive in life. And I also find that it's a lot healthier mentally to not have to use your phone all the time to just check menial things. The thing with Wear OS watches is that they're limited in their set of features. They're not going to have all these crazy news articles and like YouTube videos and social media. It really gives you the information that you want. For example, a notification, that's really important. And yes, there are ways to filter notifications so that you aren't spammed all the time. That is something that you must do as a smartwatch owner. But other things like the weather, you're just not going to be distracted. However, on the other side, if you go with, let's say, Fitbit or Garmin or other types of smartwatches, they may be too limited in what they offer. They don't offer the most rich experience. For example, notifications that give you interactions where you can reply to them. Now, yes, Garmin and Fitbit do offer that, but some of the cheaper brands out there don't offer that very well. Another huge benefit of using any kind of smartwatch is what I call glanceability. And what I mean by that is being able to just go about your daily life. It's kind of similar to the first thing I said, but not having any distractions and just seeing the information you need really quickly by just doing this. And then you can see the weather, you can see your next calendar event, all these types of things. So glanceability is one of the main themes of this video, and one of the main reasons why you may want to invest in a smartwatch. Another major function of any smartwatch or fitness tracker is to simply track your health. We're talking about your heartbeat, your sleep tracking, and stuff like that. Now, Wear OS historically in the past hasn't done a great job because it's very limited with battery life. Maybe it doesn't offer the real-time tracking that you expect from a Garmin or a Fitbit. But thankfully, with the new advancements in Ticwatch Pro 3, and especially their software, which adds native sleep tracking, we do get some pretty decent fitness tracking. I also want to add that Google Fit has one of the most robust strength training activities out there. which has the ability to track your reps and what kind of sets you're doing. So this is a really amazing feature. Yeah, they did hide it in the latest update, but there are ways to get around it. Now, there are some issues with Wear OS. Obviously, I'm going to talk about that later in the video. But without any further ado, let's jump into the 11 reasons why you may want to get a Wear OS watch over the competition. So for the first reason, it's mainly going to be the hardware that is provided by the Ticwatch Pro 3. Now, I've done a lot of research. I cannot find any other smartwatch that offers this very unique feature, and it's the dual always-on display. So what I mean by that is when you flick your wrist, you're going to see an AMOLED display. Obviously, that consumes a lot of battery, but it gives you a very rich experience, a touch experience where you can see all types of colors. Just looks very vibrant and nice, and obviously bright enough to see in the sun. However, you also get a trans-reflective display, and that display is always on all the time. It doesn't take a lot of battery, and I really like that I can use it in low light situations and very bright situations because it's reflective. You get some information like the date and the time, and that's probably the most important type of information that you want. I find other smartwatches that use the AMOLED display but in an ambient mode to be kind of annoying because first of all, you're distracted by a kind of a semi-bright display, and it does consume more battery. I think Ticwatch Pro 3 or the Mobvoi company did an amazing job with this, and I wish more Wear OS manufacturers would implement this type of technology. I just can't stress how important this feature is. Simply being able to tell the time in a very efficient manner. For example, let's say you're in a meeting, you don't want to look rude, you don't want to like put the wrist up there. Just being able to glance on the side and see the time all the time is extremely important. I think this is one of the most underrated features of any Wear OS watch, and it specifically comes from the Ticwatch Pro 3. So kudos to Mobvoi for implementing this very innovative technology. So for the second reason, this one is also my favorite. Honestly, there's so many good reasons why you want to pick Wear OS. But for the second reason, it has to do with the watch face complications and glanceability. So what exactly are complications? It's kind of a weird word. I like to think of it as a home screen widget where you can have ambient information that's always available, especially when you just raise your wrist. For example, you can get your notification, and this one is a big one. You have like a very big view of your notification. You can actually see a preview of the text. And I'm going to talk about notifications later, but this is one of the coolest features that come from Wear OS, and is that notification preview on the widget or complication. You obviously get things like the current weather, so that's really nice. So you don't have to tap into your phone or go into applications. You can just see, oh, is it cold outside? Is it raining? You can just check your watch. And for people who are like working a lot, they have an agenda. So you get your next appointment. So you're never late for your meetings and stuff like that. I know it might sound silly, but being able to have a complication that shows the date, for example, it's March 13 and tells you if it's Wednesday or not, that's just super helpful. And it's something that is very overlooked in other smartwatches. Being able to have all this data, but very organized, and the ability to actually interact with it. Now, a lot of complications or widgets that are on Garmin or possibly Fitbit is that, yeah, they display that information, but you can't tap into it. You can't do anything. You still have to swipe. And I find that very annoying. So I like that having these shortcuts on my watch face gives it a very good experience, and it really enhances the just glanceability going about your daily life. It seems like Google's Wear OS team is trying to really put glanceability at the forefront of its Wear OS experience. For example, they've recently added tiles where you can just swipe to the left and you can see things like the weather in more detail. Okay, so for reason number 3, and this has to do with the Qualcomm 4100 chip that is embedded in the Ticwatch Pro 3. Now, I'm very shocked that many other manufacturers to this day are still releasing smartwatches with the older chip, the Snapdragon 21 or the 3100. Those are very slow ancient chips from 2016, and the Qualcomm 4100 really makes a big difference, and it really completes the whole Wear OS experience. This is one of the things I appreciate from Mobvoi, is that they took the initiative to embed this new chip, so that we can have the best, fastest experience. For example, we want to access an app or we want to access the Google Assistant. Everything is just super snappy. And the amount of RAM, I think it's 1 gigabyte of RAM, really makes the whole experience just a lot faster. Just a year ago, I would not recommend Wear OS simply for how slow it is, how sluggish it can get. It was just an awful experience, and it just made the whole improvement to your daily life non-existent. Okay, for reason number 4, this one is native sleep tracking, and this specifically comes from Ticwatch and Mobvoi. So this is another Ticwatch Pro 3 specific type of advantage. Now, Wear OS doesn't offer native sleep tracking. I think that's an utter shame. Now, they did acquire Google Fit, and I think that's going to be, we're going to have a very promising future with sleep tracking and all types of fitness tracking, but to not have it, it really sucks. So this is where Mobvoi and Ticwatch 3 really provide a very good experience. Now, the thing with the native sleep tracking on the Ticwatch Pro 3 is that I found it extremely accurate. I'm just extremely shocked at how well it can track the start time of when I'm going to sleep and the time I wake up. I'm just blown away at how accurate it is. I've compared this to Fitbits and Garmin's, and especially Garmin. Garmin can totally mess up, and it can mess up your sleep tracking totally. So that is very impressive, and I'm very happy that we have native sleep tracking. You don't have to go into an app and enable it or do some kind of crazy. You just go to sleep and it tracks you. One of my biggest critiques of Garmin sleep tracking is that you cannot see the results of your sleep directly on the watch. You have to go into the app and then you can see the data. And for me, that is a very cumbersome, finicky experience. I never go into the apps. I never go into any of these smartwatches apps. I like to see everything on the actual watch. Thankfully, Ticwatch allows you to see a lot of detail right on the watch. It's super easy to access. Now, there is a Ticwatch specific bonus feature that is on top of native sleep tracking, and that's SpO2 tracking. Now, for me, I have sleep apnea. People who have sleep conditions, this is a very important metric that needs to be monitored constantly. I don't like those smartwatches that say, oh, we have SpO2 tracking, but they just do a one-time reading. So this actually tracks throughout the night your SpO2, your blood oxygen saturation. So if you stop breathing, your blood oxygen saturation will go down. And this is a possible indicator of sleep apnea. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say anything about that. However, there's one caveat to this. It only tracks every hour. So I'm really hoping in the future that Ticwatch, or in future hardware, is that they would give the user the option to enable a more fine-grained resolution of their SpO2 tracking. Because the issue with that, and the reason why they probably enabled it for only like low resolution, like one every hour, is that it probably takes a lot of battery and they don't want any bad press on that. So just give the user the option to enable like every 10 minutes, every minute, so that we can get a better gauge of our SpO2 at the expense of our battery. And then, yeah, we'll charge it every day. Speaking of battery for this particular watch, it is very good, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So for reason number 5, I want to talk about the Ticwatch Pro 3's comfort, design, and how lightweight it is. Now, I think this watch is an engineering feat. The fact that they could put a bigger battery, put a faster, beefier processor and all the components inside, and still make this slimmer and lighter than its predecessor, I'm extremely impressed. Now, I'll be honest with you, I can sleep with this all the time 24/7. This watch does not bother me. I was coming from the Vivo Active 4S, which is a very small, lightweight watch, and I found that this was even though it's bigger, which does have the advantage of looking cooler, so perhaps that is a plus in the design, I did not notice any discomfort. In fact, with the Vivo Active 4, I had rashes, and I don't know why, maybe the way it's built, but I've never had any rashes with this. Obviously, I keep this clean. I sanitize it once a week and stuff like that. But the comfort of this, I have no problem recommending anyone going to sleep with this or doing, strength training or some kind of physical activity and not be bothered or encumbered by it. So all in all, I have to say this is very comfortable, easy to wear for long periods of time, and I really like the design. I just personally really like the way it looks. It does look very cool and sexy. Okay, so for reason number 6, this is a big one. I think all these reasons are really big, but this is monumental. As a society, we are shifting towards voice-enabled devices. As you can see, the Google Homes and Alexas are really invading our homes, and it's becoming more prominent. And I think this trend is only going to continue. So why not have it on the watch? Now, the Google Assistant, in my opinion, is one of the best voice assistants, especially compared to Alexa or Bixby or even Siri. It is probably the smartest. And if you're invested in Google's ecosystem, it's just very convenient to have throughout the day. Being able to control your smart home, turn off the lights and do all types of switches and stuff like that. Being able to reply to text messages using a custom message using your voice, setting reminders on the go, and just, doing things like interacting with the device, such as setting alarms and stuff like that. You don't want to go in and have to tap the screen because it's a small screen. It's very annoying. You just want to be able to say something really quick and then go about your day-to-day life. So being able to control everything with your voice is an essential feature and something that I always look for in a smartwatch. Now, unfortunately, it's not all good news. There are some fundamental flaws with the voice assistant that is specifically on the Wear OS platform. I think it's a real utter shame that Google hasn't addressed all the little minor issues with the Google Assistant so that we can really realize the full benefit of it. Now, I've made 2 dedicated videos, or maybe one specifically about this, and I talk about it in major detail. But to summarize it, like a TLDR, it isn't a deal breaker. I obviously still get a lot of value using the voice assistant that works somewhat. But I think if they fix these issues, which I talk about in the video, honestly, there's going to be no competition. It's going to be very hard for other manufacturers to compete with the prowess and the power of the Google Assistant. As I was making this video, I got a Google update on my Wear OS watch, and I noticed that the OK Google hot word is finally working. So now you can just say the hot word and it will automatically turn on. Okay, Google, turn off all the lights.
Okay, turning off 8 lights.
So for the 7th reason, it's going to be a major component that is native to Wear OS, and that's advanced rich notifications. What I mean by that is we have a very rich experience when we get a notification. For example, if someone sends you an image, you're going to see an actual image on your notification. That is something that can't be achieved on some of the other watches that have a very low resolution or just a small screen. I really like these rich experiences. Another big one is inline actions. This is very essential. Let's say, for example, you want to use a 2FA app. Like let's say you want to authorize yourself. Now, in some applications, you get a notification on your phone, and then you have to reach out your phone and hit it. But you have your watch on you all the time. When you get the notification, you want to authorize yourself using 2-factor, you can just simply authorize from the watch. So this is just something built into Android's native notifications. It just works out of the box. Now, I use advanced notifications in a lot of my applications that I developed. I've developed 2 public transportation apps, one for Toronto's TTC and AC Transit and MBTA for Boston, blah, blah, blah. These are public transportation apps. But the scenario I have is, let's say I want to track the next bus that is coming to the stop. Well, I don't want to have to constantly take out my phone, especially when it's cold, but I want to see the notification on my watch. So being able to see the predictions, the real-time GPS predictions of the next bus is very nice to have just on your watch. This is how rich notifications really enhance your life. You can basically look at the watch, kind of like the time for a specific bus, and it just works really well. Now, to add more to the notification reason, as I mentioned before, there are complications or widgets on your watch face. And like I said before, the preview notification widget is one of my most favorite widgets, especially when it's the larger one. So by combining notifications and complications on your watch face, you're going to get a very rich experience, being able to just see everything really quickly, glancing at it. Let's say you're walking down the street and you want to know when the bus is coming. You can just look at your watch. You can see it in the notification preview. You can see the times when it's coming. It's absolutely amazing. Now, one of the major critiques to notifications on your wrist is that it becomes less healthy than just having it on your phone. I kind of agree, but I also kind of disagree. If you take the time to manage your notifications and block the ones that are not important and just really put the ones that are super important, you should be able to kind of just see notifications and triage them. So for example, oh, this one's not important. I don't need to, interrupt my day-to-day life. I don't need to look at my phone and then be sucked into the myriad of social media. But if I see a notification that's really important, I can probably action it within the inline actions of the notification, or I can stop what I'm doing and actually work. So all in all, I do find that notifications can be a little distracting if you let it get out of the hand, but there are ways to actually enhance your life and help you use your phone less all in all. So for the 8th reason why I think Wear OS is a wonderful platform, specifically this particular watch, is that it offers a speaker. Now, the speaker is very helpful in the voice assistant. Let's say you don't want to read text. Sometimes the text can be a little hard to read. As you get older, it's just very hard to see things on a small text. So if you ask it a question like, what is the weather? You can get audio confirmation and you can hear the response through the speakers.
Currently in Toronto, it's 1 degree and clear. Tonight, the forecast is around -1 and clear.
That is so helpful. If you have like a Garmin watch, you can't do that. This is one of the features you probably don't even think about. Now, if you do have a fitness tracker, you're probably not going to have a speaker on it because it needs to be lightweight. It needs to track all these, it needs to have all these sensors and stuff like that. So even if Garmin ever does come with a voice assistant, which I really hope it does, it may not even have a speaker. So you're kind of left out with a kind of a half experience where you don't get audio confirmations. Now with the speakers, I find that I use it so often to take calls. Sometimes I'm just without my phone, but I have my watch and someone's calling me, someone's important. Let's say my mom's calling me. I can just quickly take the call, say, hey, can I call you back in a couple of minutes? It's just such a convenience to have a speaker and a microphone on this particular hardware so that you don't have to have the phone on you all the time. I've honestly had voice conversations on this watch for like more than 30 minutes, and it was just a fun experience for both of us. I was able to hear them and they were able to hear me properly. So it's just a really cool little gadget that you have on you all the time. Now, I will admit, I kind of wish that the speakers were a little bit clearer. When you increase the volume, they crackle a bit and it's kind of a high pitch, high frequency kind of sound. So it's not the greatest speaker, but it does work in a pinch. So for the 9th reason why I think the Ticwatch Pro 3 is an amazing watch is for its pretty impressive battery. Now this has about 3 days of battery life, and for such an advanced watch with a very fast CPU, a bright and big AMOLED display, that's very impressive. Now, one of the major critiques from a lot of the manufacturers out there, they'll say like Samsung or even OnePlus, they'll say, okay, we don't want to use Wear OS because of battery issues. We think we can optimize our own operating system for the best battery life. And I think that's just a shame because they really drop out so many users. So many people are invested in the Google ecosystem and they want that rich kind of support, that backing from a large company. And then they go and make their own kind of little OS because we want to save on battery. Well, I'm impressed that we can extract 3 days of battery life. And I think with further enhancements in modern technology, we're going to get that even longer. So I've been using this watch for quite a while, and I honestly had no issues using the battery. I really like that I can last 3 days. I don't have to charge it constantly. It's a pretty good middle ground from having all these features and also having pretty decent battery life. The only thing I really wish that they could do in the future, but without sacrificing the thickness of this watch and the weight, is to add Wi-Fi charging. I think that would be really cool, so I don't have to carry their proprietary dongle with me everywhere I go. It'd be nice if I could use the Qi charging. Okay, so for reason number 10, and that's just Google Pay. Now you might be saying, okay, well, Garmin and Fitbit have their own type of payment systems. Yes, that's true, but not every North American bank supports it, especially if you get one of those cheaper Chinese or third-party, type of smartwatches. It's very unlikely that your country, if you're based in North America, they're going to support it. They're probably supporting their Chinese specific banks. So Google Pay is very internationally known. It's very popular in North America, so a lot of banks support it. And what's really cool about these NFC technologies, particularly of Google Pay and Apple Pay, is that in the future, someday, you can pay for your transit, your public transportation with your watch. So that's another bonus. And I think that's something that, Fitbit, Garmin, and maybe some of the cheaper brands, they may not support in the long term. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's not all positive when I'm using Google Pay. I find that the NFC strength of this watch isn't very powerful. Let's say you're trying to tap, you kind of have to put it really close. And in these times, I don't want my watch to touch a terminal where everyone touches with their dirty hands and stuff like that. So I wish the NFC was a little bit stronger. Okay, so that was really long, but that was 10 reasons why I think Wear OS and the combination of this Ticwatch Pro 3 really makes it a very compelling product, especially amongst all its competitors. But I do have the 11th type of bonus type of mention, and that has to do with third-party apps and the developer experience. Before we talk about the 11th reason, I do want to quickly mention that this video took many hours to create. If you're enjoying it so far, please do hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. Also, I'll be making more videos covering the latest advancements in Wear OS and wearables. So hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on my future content. Thank you, and we'll go back. Now, my favorite app, or one of the coolest apps I know so far that really leverages the technology in this watch, specifically the AMOLED display, is StowCard. Now, StowCard is a really cool app where you can put all your gift cards, loyalty cards, all those like kind of barcodes you put in. You can easily just scan it into your phone or just type it in, and then you get access to it on your phone. I found this to be the most reliable. I've tried it on Garmin, I've tried it on Fitbit, and it was very cumbersome. It was very hard to get all my loyalty cards onto my wrist. This StowCard is absolutely amazing, and it's definitely an app I definitely recommend. Now, in terms of other apps that are really popular, you get a very rich experience. Now, this isn't necessarily a third-party app, but it doesn't come with the OS. And my favorite app is Google Keep. Every time I go shopping, I like to write my notes on my Google Keep. I basically use Google Keep for everything. I manage my entire life on this to-do list or note-taking app. And being able to have it on my wrist is just so important for me. And I love that I can just quickly look at my watch while I'm shopping and not touch it at all. The app is just always in the foreground, saving battery and stuff like that with the screen being off. But I can just look at my groceries and say, oh, okay, I need to buy these set of groceries. So Google Keep is one of my top favorite apps. Now, one of the main reasons why Wear OS has a very good selection of third-party apps is the developer experience. Now, I've developed 2 apps for the Android platform, and I've also developed them from the Wear OS platform, specifically Transit Now and Cycle Now. So if you live in Toronto, I built these apps specifically for Toronto, but they also work for other agencies. And one has to do with, TTC, Boston Transit, AC Transit, where it tells you when the next bus is coming. Cycle Now is a bike share sharing app where you can plan a trip from point A to B, and it try to suggest all the specific bike stations that are nearby. So anyways, those are 2 apps I've developed, and I found that the experience of developing apps to be very fun because it uses Java or Kotlin, and that is a very widely supported language. And of course, it's running off Android. So it's just very easy for developers to just get right in and build any type of app. So it opens up a lot of future flexibility, future opportunities for anyone to create a really killer app on the Wear OS platform. And this is something I've tried developing apps for, like Fitbit, for Garmin, for Samsung, and it was just an awful experience. You're just not backed by Google, and Google is a very developer-centric company, so they really treat their developers well, and they give very good documentation. I don't want to get out of hand here, but I do have the 12th bonus reason, and that's just simply being able to find my phone. This is such an important feature. I always lose my phone. Sometimes I just panic because I can't find it and it fell on a couch, for example. Just simply asking the Google Assistant or pressing the button in the quick menu to find your phone is such an amazing feature. Now, those are the 11 reasons why I think the combination of Wear OS and the Ticwatch Pro 3 makes an amazing combination and really provides an amazing experience for those who are very heavily invested in Google's ecosystem. Now, of course, Wear OS is not without its flaws. The voice assistant could be a lot better, and I'm really hoping that they will fix some of the annoyances with that. And I think that fitness tracking isn't the forefront feature of any Wear OS watch. I think that's where Fitbit and Garmin really excel at. But interestingly, Google has acquired Fitbit, and this makes the Wear OS platform kind of a weird dilemma. Is Google going to continue developing for the Wear OS, or are they going to shift focus and really kind of just focus more on the more Fitbit type of style of fitness trackers? In my opinion, I really hope in the future we somehow get a combination of both, where they take the awesome smartwatch capabilities of the Wear OS platform and combine it with the awesome fitness tracking and just marry it together. So it's kind of interesting where Google is going to go. Are they going to maybe go equally away from each other in terms of Wear OS and Fitbit, or are they going to combine them? I'm very curious to know. Please let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the future of Wear OS. Anyways, that's enough of me talking. I would love to know what you think about Wear OS. Did I miss any reasons? Or maybe there are some reasons why Wear OS is still really bad. I'd love to know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.